In 2021, director Denis Villeneuve and crew successfully completed part 1 of a lifelong dream by bringing Frank Herbert's sci-fi classic Dune to cinema screens. As we know though, any story is only as good as its villain. I spoke with multiple members of Dune's production team to find out just how the menacing Baron Harkonnen was designed and brought to life through practical effects.
Kill them all.
Before we get into how the Baron himself was built though, let's talk about his home and the place that made him who he is. The Harkonnen homeworld, Gadi Prime.
I wanted to have the proper time to bring things as precisely as possible in the concept art. So the VFX crew will have everything, more than the design bar, but even the atmosphere, the look, the quality of the light, everything was precisely done in prep.
In Arrakis, during the day, there's sun coming through windows, or not coming through windows, through light wells, so they're illuminated or they're motivated by sunlight. In the worlds of the Harkonnen and the Baron, it was kind of an otherworldly light. This world was kind of motivated without motivation, but it had to be dark and moody, but not so dark that you couldn't see what was going on.
One of the things which was very beneficial for the movie was that Denis had spent a good part of a year working with the art director Patrice, trying to come up with the visuals for the movie. So when I joined the movie, like, you had all of these fantastic visuals, and like basically we built those physical sets. I built those virtual worlds exactly like they were in the concepts.
When you read the book and you read the script, you want to feel his like an obscure presence in his lair. For me, the scale and the ribs came very, very quickly in the process. Yeah, it felt like the interior of a whale.
Dune did inspire a lot of other movies in the past, so the challenge was to try to bring something fresh to the screen, and to do so, what we did is that we entirely focus on the novel and the description that Frank Herbert did of this architecture.
The architecture was something that I played with from John Portman. He's an architect who did some hotels, and it's a reinterpretation of. I remember when I was 11 years old, walking. I was with my parents. Were in San Francisco, and I was walking in one of his hotels. The scale of it, and I remember seeing this multiple levels of galleries and of balconies, walkways that are in the central atrium. But if you put it on a horizontal, it became quite interesting as a base. I was listening to Substance, Joy Division. I was listening to a lot of Joy Division when I was designing. I find my inspiration in music. A song like Atmosphere, I was like playing in loop. The heaviness, I was like, it was the bass line of.
Influences can come from unexpected places then, and while there may have been no direct inspirations for the Baron himself, it does appear that subconsciously reference points were found, especially when the time came for his on-screen reveal. First impressions are crucial for villains. Just think of Darth Vader striding into Star Wars, or Heath Ledger's Joker unmasking himself in The Dark Knight. Fear needs to be instilled into the audience the first time we see a villain, and with the Baron, this is no different.
Denis always had this vision of a bald, obese, and wearing like long dresses. That's how it's described in the book. Denis always had this vision of seeing him first in the mist, and obviously there's an inspiration from Apocalypse Now.
I remember having the conversation with Patrice because we did an interview together actually, and I said to him like, I don't recall having a reference for the Baron because he's in the steam room. And there's the shot of him wiping that thing off his brow, and which is totally Apocalypse Now. But again, it wasn't discussed as Apocalypse Now. Like, it was kind of just this beautiful like hands that had these chunky kind of meat behind them.
Ellen had such a scary presence on set. He's a big guy, right? So with the visual of the Baron, he is a truly scary character. He doesn't move around much. He's very subtle, but it's a very commanding performance.
The Baron dominates every scene he's in, and while he may not move much, When he does, it's captivating. He glides and floats across the screen, instilling menace whenever he does so. For a crew determined to keep the visual effects as in-camera as possible, this led to some unique challenges.
We spent 6 months prior to the shoot, like having conversations about how we would achieve various visuals, and like, you know, having the Baron go down a very practical approach was a very conscious decision, because like we wanted to avoid doing a CG version of it. There is one shot where like he rises really high up and like says,
"My Iraqis, my Dune."
He's actually on a seesaw. Some of the crew then pull him up so that like he then feels as if he's rising. So like just basically wire cleanup rather than having to do a CG version.
So our grip built, a thing where he can literally put his weight against the beam, and then it drops him down. Every shot's different the way we were to move him. So to move him up, you just put him on like a crane, like on a like a seesaw, and you counterweight it, and then you just move. And to keep him in a straight line, you push the track forward. As the thing goes up, you go forward, and he goes up in a straight line. First time we see the Baron in the dining room move up from having eating food and then moving across the table. That was one of the first things that we'd done practically as a moving shot, as from him moving. So we wanted to figure out the best way to do that.
What we did on set was very much a practical approach. So when you see the Baron floating over the table and like he's going towards the Duke, actually Stellan is actually on a rig, on a wire, on a zip line, and he's being pulled along. Now Stellan actually performed these, but there was one particular one which like he couldn't do, which was where like you see the Baron up in the ceiling, and that's actually one of our stunt guys who's in the Baron suit. We cut some holes in the set and basically pulled him through those holes so that like he's actually pulled up against the ceiling, and then after that in visual effects we just painted out the wires, but like basically it was very much a practical approach. Like Denis didn't want a visual effects spectacle of the Baron. Again, he wanted you to believe that like the Baron was actually real.
There's some scenes that have been cut because we designed a rig in which we would see him, crawl back down from that ceiling like a spider. That is, like that was the reference that Denis explained to us. He wanted to feel the Baron just like a scared spider, a scared Black Widow spider.
Denis Villeneuve and his crew's dedication to creating as practical a villain as possible pays off hugely. Baron Harkonnen is undoubtedly one of the most intimidating characters put on screen in 2021, thanks to a deliciously sinister performance from Stellan Skarsgård and the team behind him that took inspiration from the pages of the novel, created concepts of their own, then brought him to life through masterful production skills.